Hello there. Alright, there we go. There we are. Sorry for that little bit of a snafu on the browser. I was looking up something because my sound effects from my stream deck weren't working. Hope you guys are well today. It is Sunday, and I'm excited because I don't have to work tomorrow. Alrighty. Yeah, it doesn't happen often, usually, except on holidays. So I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I could have run day off. Found out, Friday, not Friday, a week ago, Monday. After I got back from PAX, actually, found out that we had Monday off. Our CEO at work will occasionally do that. I'm not gonna argue, so I'll take a free day off. I hope everybody's having an awesome day and that you're not melting like I am currently. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's humid. So please make sure wherever you are that you are hydrating. No, seriously, they actually, they buried it in one of the emails. Not the end of last week, but, the Friday I was at PAX. It was buried in an email. So that's how I found out, actually. Like I said, I'll take a free day off. I mean, it's a thing. We usually... That's alright. I am here for anybody else that wanders in. That is okay. I will be editing this evening. I'm gonna actually start with chapter 13 because I have been kind of revisiting some of these chapters and maybe thinking that a little bit of reworking of some of the chapters. Not a whole bunch, but there was just some things that I was looking at that might actually work a little bit better if they were... We haven't gotten to reading this yet, so it wouldn't be a huge deal if I reworked them a little bit. Also, just for giggles, can you let me know if you hear this? I'm gonna test a sound effect. Don't know how loud that is, but it should have spiked my mic. Maybe. Yes, copper. Indeed. Yep, I was just playing with some settings, trying to get it to work again, because things have been a little cranky. I think that's because I recently had some updates to, not OBS, but like video card and other things like that, so I think it may have messed with a few things. So do let me know if you guys hear or see any weirdness, because things have gone a little jank. But anyway. Alright. So, yeah, the reason why there was a screen that came up right when I swapped to the scene was that I had been checking on something with Wavelink, actually, because I wasn't seeing my sound effects like my mic feed like it's supposed to. It's supposed to move the indicator if the sound effects play if you've got it set up correctly, actually, which I do now, so that's why I was googling. Alright, so we are actually going to start with chapter 13 today. Good. Oh, Brady. I'm going to attempt to pay attention to chat this evening. It's a little challenging when I'm trying to write, but we'll see what happens. I appreciate anybody who's here, whether you are lurking or here, and hanging out with us. Whichever you are, I appreciate you. And I hope you enjoy the chill vibes this evening. So, like I said when I first started stream, I am revisiting some of the earlier chapters of Steps into the Past. This is a story that we are not reading yet, so spoiler warning. If you don't want spoilers, don't look at the screen. Don't look at the screen. But you can feel free to listen all you like. So yes, there are some spoilers here. And I hope that you guys enjoy. I'm going to be redoing this a little bit. Just a little. Because I have been working on, well, reviewing some of these chapters, and I felt that there was a way that some of these could be improved on a little bit. I am here. Oh goodness. So sorry. I think that's the humidity. I hope everybody else has been having a good weekend so far. It's been actually really nice the last 2 or 3 days. We had rain in the middle of the week, so that was a little crazy. But we definitely need it with how warm it's been, and will be probably. So rain is good in, you know, certain amounts. Alrighty. Yeah, I wanted to get my sound effects working again. The Stream Deck ones, just because they're fun to play with. You know. I'm trying to get it set up so that I can kind of have him as a kind of guest on stream, and I can have a conversation with him a little bit. I have to work on that. So that's one of those things that's a little bit down the road. Oh my goodness. So sorry. Yeah, There's been a lot that I've been thinking about with some of these earlier chapters. This was actually the point after this chapter where I actually started writing solo. Up until that point, I had been co-writing, including this chapter, so it was after this point that I started writing solo. So it's definitely a bit more challenging to write solo. And so I am attempting to revisit this and see if I can polish it up a little bit more. Make it read a little easier, both for me when I'm reading it, but also for anybody else that might be reading it on their own outside of stream. I know one of the things that they tell you when you're writing is to actually read it aloud to yourself. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've actually done some kind of self-editing when I'm reading. I do a little bit of that just to make it flow a little bit better, because sometimes the way it's written doesn't sound the way that I want it to, even as I'm reading it. It's a challenge. It is definitely a challenge. Oh. Well, if you like, we can sit down, maybe tomorrow, or later tonight, and see if I can help. I know that, yeah, motivation is definitely a challenging factor for me as well. I'm attempting to have multiple windows up and do things. Ugh. Oh dear. I only have... There we go. Trying to overlap windows. It's a challenge. Because I still want to be able to see the chat, and I want to see all of my notes for writing it. Alright. Yeah, like I said, I know that I've been through and edited several of these chapters. I actually was edited up to this point, but I definitely feel like revisiting some of this and kind of dating a little bit will help the story flow a little better. Some chapters have felt pretty smooth, others have felt a little disjointed, and some of that may be due to the fact that I tend to change perspective quite often between different characters or different locations, and I'm still trying to find a way for that to be a little more smooth. It's definitely a bit challenging. As I'm knocking things over. Don't mind me. Making a mess over here. Don't mind me one bit. Also, do let me know if the music is a little bit too loud. I'm trying to not have it super. And there goes everything I just put down on the desk. It's gonna be one of those nights. Okay. My keys just fell off the desk. I thought they were okay, but apparently not. Oh. Oops. I am over here reading notes. Please excuse my distractedness. Just trying to make sure it flows a little bit better. Right. There. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge when you're switching perspectives like I am a lot. It definitely gets to be a little challenging. That's totally a thing that I'm concerned about because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, especially in chapter 20. Well, basically from here onward, there's a whole bunch going on. This is chapter 13. Once we get, you know, later parts of this chapter and onward, it gets a little crazy. As you guys might remember from me working on chapter 23 the last couple of times. So... I think this was actually the last, outside of chapter 23, I think this was actually the last chapter that I was editing on Steps into the Past. So that's why I picked this chapter to kind of look at and see if there was ways that I could improve the flow a little bit. There were some details that I felt were not as clear as I wanted them to be, and they're kind of important. So I wanted to definitely revisit and see if I could get some clarity around some of those details. Oh, sure. I can switch to that actually, or I can take a note of it. I would be very interested to hear your suggestion, actually. You mean Ethan? That's funny. Oh dear. Maybe. Oh, poor Ethan. Yeah, he's a little bit too uptight for my liking. But, I mean, when you think about it, he kind of has to be. She's always getting herself in trouble when you think about it. He kind of has to be a little bit uptight. Maybe he's being a little overprotective. I'm still trying to figure that one out, honestly. But yeah, I think a lot of that is because he's very protective. And rightfully so. He's ended up in some pretty rough situations, as we know. So I expect him to be a little bit overprotective at this point. Kind of a thing. But he does need to let up maybe a little. She not quite, well, in the Mandalorian sense of things, she is an adult, but in like our like societal norms, she's not. She's like 16. So she's a little bit young in our by our standards, but in in Star Wars lore and within Mandalorian culture, she is actually considered an adult. So that maybe, I guess we'll see what happens after everything on Nagas. It's definitely getting very interesting. I mean, yeah. Yeah, he really is. In actually, which story was it? Maybe we haven't gotten there yet. I don't know. But yeah, there is one point in the story where I think that I think she's having a vision and she's talking to Jarius, her father, and he mentions how Ethan has kind of taken on a kind of grandfatherly role with her, which is interesting. Also, I think we're about to have an ad. I could be wrong. I think I just talked all the way through that. I'm sorry. I got very focused on what was going on in chat. Oh boy. But yeah, I think you're definitely onto something with that. He's always been rather protective of her since Darius is killed. That's always been kind of his thing. He's he thinks that she's too reckless. I mean, maybe that's a teenager thing. We're all reckless, so maybe he's right in some respects. But there's a lot going on for her. Nope. There's the ad. I will be right back. Oh, welcome back from our ad break that kind of fell on top of me without me realizing. That will teach me to pay attention to the notifications at the top of my chat. Welcome back, everybody. We had a chance to get some water, a drink of maybe not water, snack, a stretch. I took a chance to have a snack. So, Wraith, you have a great point. She does. Stefan's her master. Well, actually, Andrea too. So that's a good point. Yeah. So she's had some really good teachers, and she has a really good support system in Ethan and Callie and Jared and all of her friends, as well as Stefan and Andrea. So yeah, she's got a lot going for her, but she also has, I guess, kind of her own demons when it comes to anything involving Deathwatch. I mean, Ethan said this a few times to her, and actually I think her father did too, and Stefan, that she just, when things involve Deathwatch, she just kind of, she doesn't really know when to stop. And that's what Ethan was what meant when he said that she was reckless. So that's something that she's been dealing with and trying to manage for years. Since she was a kid, like 10 or 11. It's been this whole thing. So, putting my feet up. Oh, my chair is a little bit too tall for me, so trying to make sure that I don't lose feeling in my feet. Kind of a big deal. So, don't get me wrong, my chair is super comfy, but want to make sure that I'm sitting correctly and not cutting off circulation. But yes, Stefan is a lot more understanding than some others would be. Like, if she had gone to Chandrila with Master Tim. I think that it's important to note that Master Tim is very traditional in his thinking. In terms of, you know, being a Jedi and all of that stuff. So it's really good that she did end up there and went with Stefan instead, actually. So, some things to think about. Alright. Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, he really is. He's very... How can I put this? He's very grounded, and he understands a lot of what she's going through, because he may not have gone through the same things that she has, but he's gone through some similar things in his own training and his time as a Jedi, so he can definitely understand the things that she's dealing with, but he also has to still take on that role of teacher and make sure that she's focusing on the right things, because she can get super fixated on anything involving Deathwatch, which is, it's a thing. So that's kind of the thing that Marin has to deal with. It's very, I don't know, kind of surreal to be looking back at some of these chapters after so long. I'm not actually sure how old some of these chapters are. What? You're gonna have to refresh my... Oh, from Kung Fu Panda? Please tell me if I have that reference correct. I would feel terrible if I didn't. Yes. Yes. Okay, I was right. Okay. Yeah, now I think you're definitely onto something there. So he does feel kind of like a cross between all three. He's definitely, Stefan has definitely seen some things, and he's trying to pass his knowledge and his wisdom onto Marin, but not in a way that is, you know, overbearing. I mean, yeah, he had to come down pretty hard after her father was killed, but she almost went off and got herself killed. So, I mean, do what you gotta do. So, I think you're definitely onto something with that comparison. I'm not gonna lie. Oh man. Not going to lie on that one. I see an armored Andy? Oh, I think I do. Oh, he hasn't posted yet. No. I mean, I do. He's a good friend of mine. Does not stream, but enjoys writing and is actually writing a novel of his own, I believe. If I remember correctly. And I'm over here writing fanfic because that's my thing. Don't get me wrong, if you're writing an actual novel, that's pretty awesome. So, I'm just over here writing fanfic for fun because I've been doing it for so long. So welcome in, Armored Andy. It's good to see you. I hope you're having an awesome evening. I am actually not melting at the moment. Yeah, I was earlier. Make sure that I have my meds ready for later. So I'm, at this point, I'm mainly just kind of rereading to see if it flows the way that I want it to, and adding in a few more details that I feel that kind of got glossed over a little bit on the initial writing. So just trying to kind of add those back in. Right. I'm trying to pay attention to chat, but also look at my notes. I am here, I promised. It's definitely been interesting for me to kind of continue with some of these characters that aren't mine. I mean, I wrote with a group of friends for 15 years or so, 20 years, sometime between 15 and 20 years. It's been the last 6 or 7 that I've been writing solo, at least on these stories. So it's definitely been a bit of a challenge to kind of still embody the characters as I feel they should be, even if they aren't directly mine. Definitely an exercise in creativity. Trying to make sure I'm using proper body mechanics as I'm writing this because, you know, reasons. Sure that it reads correctly and is also, like, feasible. Yeah, body mechanics and things like that are actually kind of important when you're writing any combat sequence. Sure that physically possible. I'm actually rereading this to make sure it still reads as I think it does. It's really challenging sometimes to be able to edit your own work, which is kind of what I'm running into now. Just really wanting to make sure that it reads correctly, or at least will once I'm done. We're gonna actually go through here first. We have an ad starting in just under 5 minutes. It's gonna start in about 2 minutes. Hey Ogle, welcome in. How you doing? Thanks for that shout out, Wraith. I appreciate you. Jesus, frosty tools. Really? Oh, yep. Frosty Tools is on a trip tonight, I guess. Always like to make sure that people know what's going on. And you, sir, are a very talented streamer. Definitely more involved in chat than I am most of the time. Wow. Wow. That's great. Yes, we are. We're in an ad. Alright, we are back from our ad. Yes, Frosty Tools is in rare form this evening, as usual. And actually, pretty on point. The only thing I got wrong was misspelling Marin's name. Yep, really on point. I'm gonna go back up and read. Here we go. Yeah, sorry guys. A little bit more subdued this evening, but that's because I'm actually trying to read through the chapter and make sure that it is reading the way that I want it to. This is a bit more involved than I initially planned on, but that's okay. Hey, Chris, welcome in. Good to see you. Wow. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Frosty Tools. Not. Oh, I think Frosty Tools is a little bored because I'm actually sitting here trying to read the chapter. Pretty good. I'm actually editing chapter 13 of Steps into the Past, so we have moved back a few chapters. I am currently just kind of rereading things to make sure that they're reading as I intend them to. A lot of people wondering. Good to see everybody around. Oh, what is it telling me about now? Alrighty, we'll be here. Yeah, it's I decided this evening to revisit some chapters and see if I could kind of tighten them up a little bit. I've just been rereading and decided that I wanted to focus on a few more details, so I'm just making sure that it reads like I want it to. Yes, make sure you get dinner, Wraith, or anybody else that's around. Please make sure you're eating, hydrating. It is hot over here where I'm at these days. I'm trying to make sure that I hydrate enough, because we all know I don't. RP in SWTOR is kind of a creature unto itself. I have several friends who have tried to RP in SWTOR in the past. You have to find the right guild or like the style of RP you're looking for. And some people are just really... Some people can be really hung up on kind of the expected way a certain type of character should behave. And I've always been of the opinion that if you're going to write a particular character, yes, there are certain things that are kind of expected of you, but again, it's roleplay, and honestly, I feel like sticking to canon, just the canon way that Force users are described, especially, kind of boring, and it puts you in this little box. And I don't like being stuck in a box, which is why I write the stories that I do. To answer your question, I don't. Did they give you any kind of feedback on your writing, or were they just really rude about it? Like, if it's a decent guild, they should give you some feedback about your writing and some ways to improve it. If they honestly feel like your writing is not up to snuff. Yes. I think for me, if I'm struggling with something like that, I try to take time to kind of reevaluate where I'm going with the character. And don't feel like you have to be bound by someone else's expectations of character. Your character is your own, and you should be able to write them the way that you want to. Whether that fits in with an RP guild in SWTOR, or maybe lends itself more to fanfiction writing like I'm doing. Maybe SWTOR RP isn't the right medium for it. I found that a lot of groups for roleplay, whether they be in SWTOR or even on roleplay forums, like some of the ones that I've written in over the years, they have this kind of preconceived notion of how a particular character or type of character should be written. And I find that kind of expectation to be really limiting. I've always felt that fanfiction and roleplay in particular, roleplay characters should be written the way that the writer feels they should. You know, you shouldn't feel confined to what someone else thinks your character should be. And I know it's really hard to kind of quantify that. But honestly, if you're feeling stuck, or maybe thinking that you want to reevaluate the character, I would suggest sitting down and seeing if you could kind of storyboard or outline a little bit about the type of character that you're wanting to write. I have actually found that doing outlines or story flow type stuff has been really helpful to me. I've actually done a lot of that with this particular story, Steps into the Past, because there's a lot going on, and I want to make sure that I'm, you know, staying true to the characters as much as I can, but also making sure that I cover all of the important things that are going on. So yeah, if you're feeling unsure of your character or the direction that you want your character to go, try that. And honestly, if you're having difficulty with that character, maybe revisiting their backstory or their origin that you had crafted might be an option. I'm not saying that yeah, You may also want to check out some videos on D&D. There are some videos that I watch, and I don't remember the YouTuber, but she talks about how to be a good DM for D&D. And one of the things that I remember her talking about was let your players kind of write their own stories. You know, your job as the DM or the dungeon master is to help your players kind of expand their stories, not fit them into a box. I'd be happy to sit down with you at some point, Grizz, if you have time, and see if I can help you storyboard a little bit. I've actually found it really helpful when I'm trying to flesh out a particular chapter, or even when I was starting to write Mare and I had to sit down and think about what kind of character I wanted her to be. And as I got later in some of her stories, I revisited that to make sure that I was still keeping in line with how I wanted her to be portrayed as a character. And for each writer, that's a very personal thing. I can give you some advice and some guidelines, but at the end of the day, the character is yours, and I want to make sure that you're not feeling confined by someone else's idea of the character, which is what it sounds like happened in the Sportar Guild that you tried to RP in, which is unfortunate, and I've heard of that happening many times. KOTOR as a game does lend itself to RP, it does, but as I said, there are a lot of guilds or groups that have kind of this preconceived notion of how a particular character should be written. I mean, yes, there is that. There is also that. But yes, I would definitely recommend sitting down and kind of sketching out with words like the kind of character that you have, and maybe delving into their motivations, a little bit of their history to kind of get a greater sense of the character. I mean, there's nothing wrong with slow burn. That's actually interesting that they were kind of against the slow burn. Like, one of the things that I've learned through forum roleplay and play-by-post fanfiction writing is that, honestly, at least for me, the slow burn is kind of the way to go. I mean, I've been building on Marin's story. Oh my goodness. I'd say at least 15 years, 10 or 15 for her particular story. Yeah, I'd have to sit down and actually look at the math. But yeah, some people want instant gratification. On some of the forums that I used to write on, they would say, oh, your character's trying to move too fast. So I slowed down because I wanted to keep it more realistic. And some people, like, some people were upset that I was moving too fast. Some people wanted me to move faster, and I'm just like, this is my story, you know? You definitely shouldn't feel like you need to stick to that expectation for your character, because again, it's your character. And if you want to take it slow and kind of build up to that, you know, that end result that you want, more power to you, and I think you should. Yeah, definitely explore the character in the way that you feel is appropriate. We all have to start somewhere. No, like, you know, don't throw shade at people. Definitely not. But yeah, if you want to take it slow and kind of work your way to redemption, or kind of that that moment where they really found themselves, definitely do it. Like in Marin's instance, she has a habit of getting herself in trouble more often than not. Well, it kind of finds her, for lack of a better word. As we're discovering right now in this chapter. And the previous one or two. So. But yes, I actually think like a slow build up to kind of the end goal that you want is the way to go. And that's my opinion. And I think it differs from a lot of people when it comes to roleplay or fanfiction writing. It's kind of the same arena. But I honestly feel like the slow build up or the slow burn is the way to go. Because it gives you more room to kind of expand on the character. You don't want to go so slow that you're going to lose interest. Which it kind of sounds like that's what's going on, actually, in terms of the guild that you were working with. I guess a lot of people, and this is true for things outside of writing, a lot of people want that instant gratification, you know, and they want to be the main character and the hero and all that stuff. And that's just not how things work. Like even in real life, you gotta work towards it, and that's kind of where I'm at with Marin. Like, yes, I have an end goal in mind for her as a character, but she's not there yet, and she's got a lot of kind of growing up to do before she gets there. I definitely don't fault you one bit for wanting to go the slow burn route. I think it gives a great opportunity for character development. A great opportunity to kind of delve into their backstory, how they came to be where they are, what motivates them, you know, how their history kind of shapes them as a person. I mean, I've done so much of that with Marin. You know, hopefully not to the point of like being a trope or something, but I think that it's important for her to learn some hard lessons, because she can be very reckless, especially when it comes to anything involving Deathwatch. As any of you who have been around well know, she gets like fixated on, you know, with anything involving Deathwatch, and that can be really bad for her personally, because of the history there. So she's having to learn a lot of patience and restraint, and it's not the easiest thing in the world, for sure, because she remembers what happened with her father. So it's something that she's constantly having to deal with. Sorry, that was a lot. But that's honestly what these writing workshops are for. It's a place to ask questions and get some feedback. And I'm really glad you asked, actually. Of course, I appreciate you asking. I appreciate that. It's definitely challenging, especially the first time. I definitely didn't get... I honestly didn't know what I was doing the first time. The first time I wrote anywhere. And you can kind of tell with the stories where Callie is kind of the main character. Her arc is the writing style is rough. And it takes time, and it can take a lot of practice. So I encourage you to take some time, maybe take a step back from it, take some time to kind of do some outlines for, you know, a little bit of history and focusing on where you want the character to go, and kind of start there. You know, that's what I've been doing a lot of with Marin, and she's a pretty well established character. So anytime that I can answer questions or provide advice, I'm happy to. And yes, we have been staring at chapter 13 for an hour and a half, but it's okay. We have an ad starting in 17 seconds, so I will be right back after this ad break. Okay. See you guys in a minute and a half. Alrighty, we are back from our ad break. Thanks so much for hanging out. Also, Grizz, thank you for that subscription. I need to work on my alerts. They are apparently not firing as they should be, but welcome into the Galactic Archives as a subscriber. If you did that right as the ad started, you may want to refresh so it actually takes effect for the next one. Also, welcome in to Sniper. Good to see you this evening. Hope we're having a good day so far. Been a humid one here, but it's cooling down a little bit. I'm glad to see everybody here this evening. And I am still editing chapter 13, but we're having some really good discussions in here, and I'm really glad that Grizz, that you were able to come in and ask some questions, because honestly, that's where it all starts. And I'm happy to give feedback or advice as much as I can. There we go. The wrong window open. Sorry, guys. Oh no, probably about a minute. Not super long. If you accidentally click on the tab, if you're using, I know if you're using Opera, if you click on up at the left-hand side of the tab there, it'll actually mute it if you're listening to audio on that tab. I have to be really careful about that sometimes. I think on Chrome, you have to right-click and mute the tab. Don't know how it would work with other browsers, but those are the two that I'm familiar with. I'm actually using Chrome right now. But a lot of times when I'm watching a stream, I'll use Opera. The streams tend to run a little bit better in Opera. I'm not sure why that is. Yeah. All good. Yeah, hey, and a lot of people use Firefox too. Nothing wrong with that. It's whatever works for you. I've just been using Chrome for so long that it's like the thing. I will actually sometimes, even when I'm streaming, I'll have, if someone else that I know is streaming, I will have them tapped up but muted so that they can get the view. Muted via the tab. Because if you mute the stream itself, they actually lose the view that way. So I try to actually just mute on the tab itself. So yeah, that's actually something I learned a while back regarding Twitch, is if you're watching someone's live stream, if you mute using the volume control, yeah, that's actually why I have alert command. So, because that's a thing. Because the sniper actually has a really good point. He says if alert command isn't running, the view eventually drops even if only muted. Yeah. Important. That's an important distinction. But I also know from personal experience that if you mute via the stream's volume itself, the view doesn't tend to count. But yeah, that's a good distinction as well. Thanks, Sniper. I appreciate you. So I'm always trying to make sure that if I have somebody tabbed up, that I do occasionally, you know, tab back over to keep the view active. I like to support my fellow streamers when I can. It's important to support each other. Yeah, I knew that there was some kind of a limitation. I thought it was 2. So that's also good to know. Thanks for that information. Yeah, I don't usually have too many tabbed up at the same time, maybe 1 or 2. But it's important to kind of tab back in every once in a while, and you know, maybe post something in the chat if you can, to keep that view active. Also, lurk commands are a thing. They're important. Yeah, I kind of figured that's why they did that. I knew that there was a limitation in place for a reason, and that's kind of why I figured it was. So... sorry. I'm gonna make sure I hydrate. Yeah, I can definitely see some people trying to cheat the system, which is... it makes total sense that they did that. I'll keep one or two people tapped up, even if I'm streaming as well, just to, like I said, help them with the views, and maybe one of those people is somebody I want to run into. You know, I like to check out vibes, check on my friends, see how they're doing with their streams as well. You know, just spread the support and the love around. It's important. Oh my goodness, now I have the hiccups. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, I also redid the layout for the writing scene a little bit, because I didn't want it to cover the text that I'm editing, so that you guys can see. You too. Hope your stream goes well. You gonna be blowing up some tanks tonight? Or are you playing Doom? Hey, you're making progress. Hey, Grizz, I totally understand. Every writer has to start somewhere. In your case, I definitely think starting with doing an outline or fleshing out the backstory might be the way to go. Wow. You made some progress. Alrighty. Um, I've not actually ever written Star Trek fiction. It's definitely a fandom that I enjoy, but I've never actually tried my hand at writing Star Trek particularly. I did have a brief foray into Honor Harrington. I wrote one story for that. It's kicking around somewhere, I'm sure. I'm very well versed in that universe as well because I grew up reading the Honor Harrington books, and I also grew up reading the Dragon Riders of Pern series. So I could probably write some of that as well if I ever felt, the desire to write in that genre. Also, it's sci-fi fantasy type stuff as well. But yeah, I've never actually considered writing Star Trek fiction. That would be an interesting... Oh, goodness. That would be an interesting thing to explore, actually. Because I love Star Trek. No, the Pern series is absolutely fantastic, and Anne McCaffrey was a fantastic writer. If you have not read any of her books, please look them up. They're fabulous. And I highly recommend the Honor Harrington series as well. It's military sci-fi, and I actually pull some inspiration from there as well with my stories, at least the more recent one. You know, some of the terminology, if you've read any of that, you might be familiar. But yes, the Pern books are fabulous. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them on at any library. You would probably find them on Audible if you have an Audible account. Might be able to find them on Kindle if you have a Kindle account. What? Oh my goodness! Grizz! We need to introduce you to Honor Harrington. Like, yesterday. So the Honor Harrington series is a series by the author David Weber. He also has several other series, but that is the one that I am the most familiar with out of his book. Grew up reading those alongside the Dragon Riders of Pern, and I've always been fascinated by that whole universe. Oh my goodness. Back is just kind of... But yes, definitely look up the Honor Harrington series by David Weber. There's a whole series. I don't even know how many books there are. Like I said, you can find them on Amazon. You can probably find them on Kindle, on Audible if you have accounts for those. Any library should have some of them. At least the libraries when I was a kid had several. They're very, very good. Yes. Definitely check out the Honor Harrington series. Very, very good. So yeah, military, sci-fi. So I've stolen, for lack of a better word, several terms from that series for how I refer to some of the ships and the space combat. So it made sense. So I have stolen some of the terms. But definitely check Honor Harrington series out when you get a chance. My closed captioning is being ridiculous. Honor Harrington. There we go. Close enough. Actually, is that one still up? I'm gonna double check something real quick. Oh, you can find it on Kindle through Amazon. You can also find it on Goodreads. Let's see. So there are quite a few books in that universe. There you go. Kind of. Now that I think about it, kind of. It does feel like that a little bit. In a good way. I think you might enjoy that particular series. Okay. I think that you would definitely enjoy that series quite a lot. I haven't played through all of Mass Effect, like the main game, but I played through a good portion of it. So yeah, I think that it does have a bit of a Mass Effect vibe. Well, I'm glad. That's what I aim for anyway. I try. Oh my goodness, it's already almost 9. How would you guys feel about me going a little bit longer? I've really been kind of just reading this chapter. So... And you know, and that's okay. Like, I'm sitting here editing a little bit and talking with you guys about story crafting and also some of my favorite series that have honestly shaped me as a writer. I really draw heavily on the David Weber on Harrington series for a lot of my inspiration. Sure. I'll be here for a little while longer. It's 9 o'clock. I'll hang out for a little while longer. We have an ad starting in just under 5 minutes. Alrighty. Alright. Alright, it's gonna start in about a minute and 20 seconds. Uh, oh, it's about to. I will be right. Alrighty. And we are back from our ad. Thanks so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. Hope everybody had a chance to get a stretch break, grab a snack, maybe get a little bit of water. Alright. Oh, thank you. My shoulders are crunchy today. There we go. Alrighty. Thank you for that stretch. I needed that. I've been slouching a little bit. Alright. Thank you for that stretch. Yeah. I was totally slouching. Thanks for catching that. Oh, man. Yeah. Actually, Grizz, thank you for all of those questions. Actually, it's gotten me thinking as well. And that's similar things on my end was actually why I wanted to revisit some of these chapters, because it's been a while since I wrote them. And I felt like I could improve on them and clean them up a little bit. Oh goodness. So sorry. Dogs have their own timetable. I mean, let's be real. Oh man, they really do. They have their own timetable. Fairly confident actually. I've read a good portion of the books. I've watched all of the movies, played several of the games. Yeah, I'm fairly confident. Having said that, uh, I do kind of write in my own little corner of the universe, as you can probably tell. Which is okay. Like, I honestly feel that whichever universe you decide to write in, and this is the case for kind of anywhere, you know, I feel like if you're writing your own stories, definitely pick a universe that you're fairly familiar with so that you know the lore. Yeah, definitely pick a universe that you're very familiar with so that you can write knowledgeably about it. I don't know if that's actually a word, but I made it up. You want to be able to write believably, and even with fanfiction, you have the universe that you're setting your story in, and you have all the lore and the history, and you can write in whatever timeline within that you desire. I have read many of the Star Wars books, not so many of the new ones, but many of the, you know, the expanded universe books before it became Legends. I've read quite a few of those, and I feel that it really kind of gave me some good knowledge. Oh yeah, it's well, that's why I kind of picked a timeline that, you know, a period in the timeline that didn't have as much written in it. At least at the point that we started writing, there wasn't so much. So the stories in the kind of mini universe that we have, they take place after the Swarm Wars books. You know, so there wasn't too much going on book-wise or lore-wise at that point. I mean, there might have been some stuff in the comics, but I don't really read the comics. So we felt that it would be a good place to kind of take that established history up to that point and then kind of branch off and do our own thing. Oh, so hold on. So the Swarm Wars series, roughly 37 years after the Battle of Yavin, so 37 years after A New Hope. So that's the time period that we're writing in. That's after the events of the Swarm Wars books. And at that point in time, there wasn't, when we started writing, there wasn't too much going on at that point, at least that we were aware of. The comics about Cade Skywalker and things like that hadn't been written yet, so there was some room to play, essentially. And so that's why we picked there to write, because of that reason. I mean, you could write in SWTOR era, you could write in KOTOR era. At this point, it's technically legacy or legends, I guess is the right term. It's not necessarily canon like the movies are, but it's definitely expanded universe. What they're now calling Legends, because it's a book. It's not the mainstream media that they're considering canon, like all of the shows. So, yeah, so it's technically Legends, I guess, now. I don't know who wrote the series, but it's a 3 or 4 book series called the Swarm War. Um, so it's just a really, that's the period in time that we had chosen because there wasn't a lot going on like in lore. Yeah. It's actually slightly before Legacy of the Force. I don't know like what year in universe that Legacy of the Force took place. I think that was like 40 ABY, maybe 45. I'd have to go look. But yeah, there was those books weren't written at the point that we had actually started writing. So like I said, we had actually picked that for that reason, because we wanted a point in the timeline where there wasn't a lot going on that we could kind of branch out from there. It gave us a really good starting point. So everything in canon and in...
We are greatly honored by your visit, ambassadors. Make yourselves comfortable. My master will be with you shortly.
Welcome, Tiny Irish Viking. Welcome to the stream. And thank you for that follow. My name is Meshla. I am primarily an audiobook streamer. What that means for me is that I have been writing and crafting my own Star Wars fanfiction for about 25 years. And currently I am editing one of the chapters of the most recent story called Steps into the Past. Yeah, so welcome into the stream. I also will periodically play some Star Wars The Old Republic, but my primary focus of this stream is writing and reading. So, welcome in. I know. Legacy of the Force, he must be like... Oh, probably in his 50s, if not older. Well, welcome into the stream. I'm writing Star Wars fanfiction. I mean, we all got to start somewhere with the writing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But like I said, I have been... When I started writing 25 years ago, I was writing cooperatively with a group of 5 or 6 people. And at this point in time, I'd say for the last maybe 7 or 8 years, maybe a little longer, I've actually been writing solo. So it can be very challenging to write things solo, at least in my experience. I know with different genres or stuff like that, it might be a little bit easier. But I tend to write a lot of combat things, especially in this particular story. There's a lot of combat going on. That can be challenging to write solo. 4'7". I am just shy of 5 feet tall myself. Like in real life, I'm really short. I went to PAX East last weekend, actually, so Mother's Day weekend. And I am the shortest person in a group photo. Oh, that's awesome! Congratulations! I'm over here writing fanfiction. I suppose if I really wanted to, I could try my hand at writing, you know, regular fiction, but for the time being, I am content to continue with fanfiction. Congratulations on having your first book in editing, that's awesome! Yeah, it's man, quarter of a century over here. I'm actually gonna actually I'm just getting I gotta go back and read it. I use Grammarly to help out a little bit, but I'm actually in the process of like fully rereading some of these chapters to help them, you know, to rewrite them and help them flow a little bit better for also for the reader, but also for me if I'm, you know, as I read them aloud on stream, because as anybody who writes knows, things sound very different when you're reading them aloud. We have an ad starting in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, just so you guys are aware. I have a minute and 30-second ad play every half hour. Unfortunately, I have no control over the fact that we have ads. I wish I did. They do help support the channel, so I appreciate your patience as we deal with the ads every so often. The minute and a half is a great time to actually go get a drink of water, have a stretch, get a snack, hug your kids, you know, anything like that. And that's often what I will use it for, is I will go to be right back and I will use that minute and a half to give myself a chance to go get a drink of water or grab a new snack. Or more of whatever snack I was eating. Oh yes, and pet your pets. Love on your pets. There's, you know, you can do a lot in a minute and a half. Pick any one of those things. So, some people go for 3-minute ads once every hour, but I don't know about you, but I don't want to sit through 3 minutes of ads all at once. So I break it up a little bit. I try to be, you know, aware of the fact that nobody really likes ads, but we kind of have to deal with them. So I try to break it up a little bit more so that you don't have that whole 3-minute chunk all at once. So. Alright. Yes. Definitely pet your dogs. Hug your partner, your wife, hug your kids. Any of the above. You could do many different things in a minute and a half. Alright. I'm sure you do. Oh man. Oh. I mean, they could be. You never know. I've heard that they're pretty fancy these days. It's a good one. Alrighty. I mean... Okay. I'm sure they do. Oh dear. I'm sure you could get them in black if you looked. Alright. Sorry, I didn't actually notice if the ad ended, but it looks like it has. So we are back, I think. Okay. Alrighty. Oh, like I'll be going until about 10 o'clock. Sorry about that, guys. We've been having some really good discussions though, so I'm okay with that. We had some really good discussions actually on Wednesday as well when I was playing SWTOR. So I'm okay. I actually enjoy getting into good discussions with chat. I'm trying to pay more attention to what's going on in chat and engage more with you guys instead of getting totally lost in what I'm writing or playing. So please continue. Really good question. I have about half of my characters that are actually named for some of my fanfiction characters, and if that's the case, I do try to play them as the character as they are like in the stories. So I recently have been playing my bounty hunter, Darius Dirza, and it's interesting because bounty hunter class is an imperial class, and the expectation when you play an imperial character is that you're going to be entirely evil and just awful, and that's not how Jarius is as a character. So I always try to play any of my characters that are named for specific characters in the stories. I try to play them as, you know, as they would react to things like in my stories. So it can kind of throw things for a loop in terms of the kind of expectation for the way that the class might be played. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. Like, so Jarius is very much a good person, so I generally play him light side, but he has his occasional moments of doubt, self-doubt, or maybe something happens and he takes the dark side option. Happens. Oh, goodness. So that's actually a really good question. So it really depends on the character. If it's one of my fanfiction characters, I try to play them kind of true to form, regardless of what the affiliation might be. Whether they're Republic or Empire, I try to play them true to how I feel that they should be portrayed. And if it's one of my other kind of non-fanfiction characters, I try to play them as, you know, as I think that they should be. Yeah, it's definitely a different way of approaching playing a particular character or class in any game. But in terms of Star Wars: The Old Republic or any related game where you can create your own character rather than playing as a specific, I think it's interesting to kind of explore how that character would honestly react to things, like kind of embodying that character, which is what I feel like I've been doing with the characters that are kind of named and styled after some of the characters from my fanfictions. It's definitely not easy because, like I said, people kind of expect you to play your character a certain way based on the class or affiliation. But it's your character. You can play them how you feel they should be, which is okay. Yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing. And I feel like kind of fleshing out your characters a little bit with some story might help with that, maybe, or the reverse is true. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's how I approach it, and that can work for some people. Everybody's a little different on their approach to writing. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Yeah, even if it's just like a half page or a one page thing, like try and write a little bit of a history for the character. That may help you, even if it's your Twitter character, that may help you figure out how you want to play them and how they might react to different situations. You know, like I said, my character Jarius in SWTOR is very much styled after Jarius from my stories, and he responds in very much the way that yes. Okay, so try starting with, I'd say, a couple of paragraphs and see what you come up with, and then kind of go from there. But yes, you can double space if you want. I'm not a teacher. Hey Taba, how are you? Welcome in. No, don't worry about it. Like really. But definitely try starting with like a paragraph or two, and then see where you go from there. Everybody's got to start somewhere when you're trying to flesh out a character or even start writing an outline for your story. Start slow, start with a couple of paragraphs and see where that gets you. Definitely try to focus on the character's motivation, maybe a little bit of their history, how they came to be where they are. You know. I'm looking at the time. Hope your evening is going well, Taba. It's warm over here, but I'm not melting like I was earlier. Ooh. Oh no. Wraith, I'm sorry. I'm actually about to end myself in about like 10 minutes or something. So that I can I need to get some sleep. Oh, that's okay. Oh no. Well, I appreciate you being here, Taba, even if for a little while. And Wraith, I understand completely. You know, gotta go adults. The thing. I was planning to stop at 9, but we got into some really good discussions, so I didn't want to leave. You know, good stuff. No, it really does. But we all have to do it, unfortunately. Oh, I don't know. I would hope he wears something. I mean, I would think that he wears pants, but who knows? I suppose we'll never know. But I would like to think that he wears pants or leggings or something under those robes. Because that if he didn't, that would just be weird. People do strange things. I mean, maybe you gotta have pockets. Maybe he's got like pass-through pockets or something on the robe that we don't know about. That's a good question, actually. Who knows? I don't know. Alrighty. I guess I should look for a raid target. Since it's almost gone. Let's do that. Let's do that. Alrighty. moving someone as well. That's really interesting. It's actually fascinating. Alright. I'm switching screens here. Oh goodness, sorry. Alright. So we are going to go say hi to the sniper, who is one of my mods. He's super chill. He is currently playing Doom, as I know some people are as well. We're gonna go say hi. His first raid command is for anybody who is subscribed to the channel, because it has subscriber emotes. And the second raid command is for anybody who is following the channel or is just hanging out with us tonight. You guys can snag that one. And we're going to go say hi to the sniper this evening. Thank you so much for everybody who stopped by tonight and hung out and had some really good questions to ask. I always appreciate when you guys ask questions because it challenges me to think more about my own approach to writing, and I learned stuff too from you guys, so I really appreciate that. So, alright. So we're going to go say hi to the sniper. Give me just a moment while I get that set up over here. Alright. Okay. Oh. There we go. Alright, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you being here tonight. Whether you are a returning viewer or somebody who's new to the community, I appreciate you and hope that you were able to enjoy the stream and gain a little bit of knowledge about writing. I'm by no means a professional, but I enjoy what I do and have been doing it for a very long time. So I hope you enjoyed our time together, and I hope to see you back on stream on Wednesday, where I will actually be starting to read the next story, which is called The Warrior's Heart. I hope to see you. 7 p.m. on Wednesday, so 7 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday. We'll be reading The Warrior's Heart. Hope to see you there. And hope you all have an amazing evening. Have a good night. Thank you so much.